Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to go through Chapter 5 of Adobe Classroom in a Book for CS6. I think there's an iteration of this lesson also in the 2017, maybe with a couple extra bits, but they're pretty much the same. I, however, am not actually going to go through the chapter. I'm going to watch this video and then show you how I would build it if I had only the video as a reference and all the assets. Okay, so let's pretend someone sent us a video but they don't have the project file, but they want to be able to rebuild this video. So let's take a look at it for a second.
Hi, I'm Gordon Studer. Hello. I'm a Bay Area illustrator. Take a look at some of my work. Gotta go.
Okay, so nice little 20-second video. There are a few different things happening here. Let's take a look at the assets first. If we go into the lesson folder, we have our lesson 5 folder, assets, and we have, if we just do our quick preview here, we have a Photoshop file that's super wide. There's probably a lot of layers in here we can mess with. We have Gordon's video that he has stabilized. We'll get into stabilization later in the book. We have our audio file. Let's not listen to that. And then we have his samples of his artwork for his little easel at the end. Okay, so we have all that stuff. Okay, so let's build this project. I'm going to open up After Effects, and also just to take a look before I import this PSD, I'm going to double click on the PSD to see what's going on with that. While those are opening up, let's take a look at this .mov. Remember how he had his head cut into, had a little shape cut out of his head, and then he was in the car? Well, the way his face was staying still was he has already gone through this video file and motion tracked his face and made it so that his face doesn't move in the frame. See how everything is moving around him, but his face isn't actually moving? We'll learn how to do that later. So, alright, let's cancel that. Okay, I'm going to go into Photoshop here real quick. As soon as my beach ball is done going. And let's take a look at the layers of this Photoshop file. So here's some Photoshop tips. V is also the selection tool. At any point I can hold down the space bar and it'll temporarily turn my tool into my hand tool. I can reposition this in the frame. Command plus and Command minus will zoom in and zoom out. So there's a error you're probably all going to see, but you just click OK on that. Alright, so let's Command Tab back over to Photoshop. So here we have in our layers we have a leaves layer. Looks like that's these leaves over on the side, so that's good to know. We have our artist. Looks like that's just the car. And then we have a bee, so nice little bee there. We have a head. We have vehicles. Looks like those are in a subfolder for yellow car, blue car. We have a foreground, which is all this stuff. And then we have our skyline. So let's go over here and see what's in our skyline. If we twirl this down, we've got skyline, which is these buildings over to this side, a building, and more buildings. Okay, and then our background layer, which is all this stuff. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this entire Photoshop file and import it into After Effects. We're going to import it as a composition so we have each of those layers to work with, and then we are going to put it nested inside another timeline so that we can make it look like we're driving down the street with him. Okay? Alright, so we've taken a look at our Photoshop file. I didn't actually change anything, so you can save it for safety or not save. Either way is fine because I didn't actually change it. All I did was turn layers on and off so I could see what was going on. So at this point I'm just going to quit Photoshop and I'm going to go over to After Effects and select New Project. When my After Effects opens up, see, I don't actually have to have a project saved in order to run After Effects. So at this point, first thing I'm going to do is save this. So I'm going to hit Command-Shift-S to save. And when my beach ball is done spinning, and I have my Save As dialog box pop up, I'm going to navigate to my desktop where I've got this folder, go to my finished project and call this Chapter 5, Scott. Save it. Alright, now let's start importing stuff. I'm going to start by importing that Photoshop file. So, Command-I for import. Then I'm going to go to my Lesson 5 folder, go to Assets, and then click on Car Ride PSD, click Open. And now under Import Kind, I'm going to click on this drop down and select Composition Retain Layer Sizes. Okay, and editable layer styles is fine, or merge layer styles into footage. If you know about layer styles, you can edit them in After Effects if you leave them editable. If you want your footage to react a little faster and you know what your layer styles are and you don't want to change them, then just select Merge Layer Styles into Footage. It'll go a little faster. So I'm going to do that just in case he has any layer styles in there. Click OK. Now if I double click on Car Ride, you'll see that this looks just like the Photoshop file, but take a look. If I go up to my little project panel up here, it shows as 2058 by 240 is the size of that Photoshop file. Is that a standard frame size for video? Definitely not. But because it's super wide, we have the luxury of nesting it and making it move. Question?
Sorry, I got a little bit behind. So you imported just Car Ride?
Yeah, I only imported Car Ride PSD
Okay.
as a composition with retained layer sizes. Okay. So remember how in Photoshop I said, oh, we've got this vehicles layer is actually a folder? Well, folder layers, like groups in Photoshop, come in as pre-comps. So this is already a nested composition inside this comp. So if I double click on this, see how it opens up this additional tab, this vehicles tab in my timeline panel? I can do an animation here, separate, and then it'll appear in here. And then I can additionally move the objects around and do stuff as I want to. So we also have this skyline layer. Okay, but if we double click on that, because it's a composition, we have the three objects that we can move. All right. So let's work on a couple of things. Right at the beginning, this car comes in and it drives along the whole side of this composition, and this tree is in front, and the bee flies out from behind him. I don't know if you guys saw that, but the bee flew out right at the beginning. So let's kind of do this our own way. one thing I need to do is create a new comp, and I'll show you how this is all going to move. So I'm going to create a new composition by clicking on the new composition icon here, or Command N will do that. This one doesn't need to be very big, so I'm just going to select NTSC DV, and that'll be actually bigger than what our footage is. And from when we watched it before, this is only a 20-second video, so I'm going to type in 2000 for the duration, and I'm going to call this Car Ride Master. So if I click OK there, Car Ride Master just came up as its own tab in the timeline panel. Is everybody with me so far? All right. Now here's what nesting is. This Car Ride PSD, this super wide thing that we imported first, the composition is just another asset that you could put into another composition, like a picture. Only it's an animation that you do before you put it into the other. But I'm going to put it in now just to see what it looks like. It's smaller top to bottom, but it's definitely wider. I'm going to make sure this fills the screen top to bottom. Okay? So I'm going to right click on the layer in the timeline, go to Transform, and then select Fit to Comp Height. And that will scale the whole thing up uniform till the top and bottom touch, the top and bottom of the composition. Okay, so check out what we can do now. See this outline that's super wide? It's still all there. It's just the only part we can see is inside the video frame size that we set up this comp to be. That means over time we could set position keyframes to just move it like this, and that's how we drive from one end of the street to the other, like that, and then we just end it there. Does that make sense? All right, so let's do that. Let's go to the beginning of our timeline, and here is the first major tip of the day. If you don't have any position keyframes turned on, and rather than hit P to expand your position properties, click on the stopwatch. Alt P or Option P will add a position keyframe where your playhead is. Okay? So now if I go up here and start dragging it to the right, hold down Shift till it pretty much meets up with the side there, we have set a position keyframe with this position here. And then I think roughly 15 seconds into it was when he got done saying, "Gotta go, see ya," and he drove off. So that was when it was settled. I'm going to just click this and drag it over here with the playhead at roughly 15 seconds. I'm going to drag it this way and let it stop right here. Okay, so now watch what happens if I go back to the beginning of the timeline and hit spacebar or 0 on the number pad. I've got this picture scrolling along. It might actually be a little bit slow, but we'll adjust it.
I'm sorry, can you do that again?
Yeah, the position keyframes?
Yeah, because I got it from the beginning, but then while I was doing that, you did something else and I missed something.
All right, so at the beginning I put I put it right there, right? So my main object is right there, kind of right to the edge. Now if I just put my playhead at 15 seconds and then all I have to do is drag it, or so if I drag it up here and hold down Shift, it'll move it directly sideways. Or if I also want to make sure that it goes sideways, I can go down to my position properties and move only the first value, which is side to side.
So you hold Shift and it moves it?
Yeah, if you're moving it visually up here in your composition panel, then it'll move it sideways or vertically depending on which way you're moving your mouse.
Because I'm holding
Okay.
shift and it doesn't want to move it at all.
You have to start moving it and then hit shift.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're probably, yeah, if you hold down shift before, you'll start drawing a selection box
Yeah.
to add objects to your selection.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right. So let's move this. I'm actually, because I'm zoomed in here, I'm going to put my mouse on this X value of the position, start dragging it to the side, but I'm going to hold down shift so that it moves it even faster. Then I can let that settle right there. Okay. So now from point A to point B, we have moving from one side of this timeline to the other. All right, let's go in and do some trickery. I'm actually going to take these two objects, the car and the head. Actually, it's head and artist, isn't it? Artist is the car and the head is this profile picture. I'm going to select the artist first, then the head, then hit Command C to copy them, and then I'm going to hit my delete key to delete them out of this composition. Then I'm going to go to my car ride master, which is my main comp here, and I'm going to hit Command V on my keyboard, and that pastes him in. Now watch what happens here. He's a little small because I did the whole scale thing before. If I go to car ride and hit S, that'll tell me what the scale is of the car ride PSD, and it's at 200%, which means in order for head and artist to show up the same size, I need to have them at 200% to have them fit relative to how the Photoshop file wants it to be. So, watch what happens if I just select both of them, hit S to bring up the scale properties, and then start scaling it up to 200. What's happening?
It's messing up the layout.
Yeah, it's messing up their relationship to one another. So I want to make sure that that head is always in the same place and the same scale in relation to the car as it is right now. Does anybody remember how I do that? I think I taught you last week. You set up a parent-child relationship. Did I do that last week? Briefly?
Briefly.
Okay, so let's take the head layer, because the head we want to stick in the car, right? And let's go with the head layer, go over to this little pick whip tool, this little spirally thing, and drag that to the artist layer, and then let go. Now, the head is pointed to the artist, which is the car. Now, anywhere the car goes, no matter how big the car gets, that head is always going to be the same size in relationship to it. Okay? So, let's now scale the car up to 200%. Yay! It's nice and big. Alright, I'm going to repeat that for these branches, these leaves, because I need those leaves to be in front of the car and the head. Okay? So if I double click on car ride layer and I go to the leaves, hit Command C to copy them. Now I'm going to delete that out of this comp. Go back over to the car ride master, hit Command V, and that pasted them in. Now what do I need to do?
Scale it.
Scale it up to 200%. Excellent. And then I'll put it right there so that they're in place. Now why are the leaves behind the head and the car still? The layer stacking order, right? Okay, so the leaves need to be on top of the head and the artist. down here in the timeline panel. There, now they're on top. Now we can move the car and have him come out from behind the leaves. So if I scrub along here, watch what's happening. Oh no, the leaves aren't moving. What's one way I can make sure those leaves are going to move out of the way?
Can you anchor it to the front of the picture?
Yes.
Parent and childhood?
So if I now take the leaves layer and parent that to the car ride layer, it will move at the same speed. It'll be identical. Okay? So that's nice. I like that. All right, so let's just our first little animation. Let's decide when we want this car to come in. Okay, do we want it to be on screen already, or do we want it to be off screen? This might be where I would want it to end up. Okay, so he comes out and he settles here. So let's say that'll happen by the time he gets to like 1.5 seconds in. He'll be settled into his spot. Okay, so if I go to the artist layer, which is the car, how do you activate the first keyframe for position? Option P. Then if I go back to the beginning where I want him to start, I can just grab him, move him off. I'm holding down Shift. He's moving off screen. Okay. Now I'm going to hit spacebar and see what this looks like. What do you guys think? It's so cute. That's what I think. All right. I'm going to just start harping on this right now. Okay? Cuz you've been through 4 chapters of this already. You already know how to do it, so let's just do it over and over and over. I just moved him into place and watch his motion. Start. Stops immediately, right? Is that physically possible in the universe of car-sized objects? I know it's a cartoon, but let's make that ease in. Okay? So right-click on it, keyframe assistant, easy ease in. Now the motion will soften a little bit.
Scott, I have a question.
There. Yes?
So my final, where my car ends up, is not quite where I want it. It's not centered, it's a little bit too far to the left.
Okay.
How can I then, once I've set my keyframes, how do I now move it over the final position, move it over a little bit?
Okay. Here's how to, let's pretend my car is center right now, but let's pretend I don't want it to be center. If I just move this here, watch what happened down in my timeline. It added a position keyframe. So I want to make sure my playhead is on a keyframe before I move him so that I can change his position when he's settled. There's a couple ways. I can hold down Shift and scrub my timeline back and it'll snap to certain things. One of those things will be keyframes. The other thing is if you go over here to the very left edge, that little blue diamond is highlighted blue because it means my playhead is on a keyframe for that value, the position property. Okay? Now I'm going to move the playhead off and it goes gray. The way I make it the playhead go to the previous keyframe is I click this little left arrow to the left. And that'll make it go to the previous keyframe. And if I do it again, it'll go back to this first keyframe, which highlights this right arrow, which will allow me to jump it forward to the next keyframe instead of the previous keyframe. Now with my playhead on this keyframe, I can change that position. Now watch what happened, what I almost just did. If I select position here in the timeline, see how it turned both of those position keyframes blue? If I move the car now, it's going to move all the keyframes. See this little square over here moving? It's going to change all the keyframes relative to how I'm moving it now. So let's pretend we had this bee go zoom, 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 go zooming around the screen and then head off. That's probably a lot of keyframes. But if he's zooming around on the wrong part of the screen, if I select his position keyframes, then move him around with my playhead on one of the keyframes, then it'll move all those keyframes to the side instead of just one of them. Okay. In fact, let's do something like that. But first, let's just make sure he's coming in the way we want him to. Okay, so he stops. Okay, so we have this head layer, we have this car layer, but we want to put our fellow's head in there and not this image. So let's set up a track map for the guy's head. We need to import the .mov file. So I'm going to hit Command I, and I'm going to bring in Gordon's head.
What if you already just imported all of the assets?
Then you already have Gordon's head imported.
Okay, so you don't have to.
You don't have to do it
start
again.
over again.
So I'm going to click Open there and drop him in this timeline and see how big his head is relative to that. So he's pretty good. I'm going to drag him down underneath the head layer just to see. Alright, so he's a little bit big, slightly. I'm going to make him a little bit smaller. I'm going to hit S and scrub this down till his face pretty much fits inside that area. Now watch this little bit of trickery. This isn't something the book teaches you right now. So we've drawn masks, right? I could either go onto the gordonshead.mov file and solo it, which is this button right here next to the audio, and solo it, and I can grab my pen tool and I can try to draw a little shape around his head to cut him out. Then if I unsolo him, that's what he looks like there, right? That's not very precise. I want it to actually be the same shape as this layer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to undo all that, just delete that mask. See how Gordon's head is stacked underneath the head layer? If I go to the toggle switches modes button way down at the bottom here, toggle switches modes, then it'll allow me to set a track mat. And if I, on Gordon's head, track mats reference the layer above it. So let's say I want to use the head layer as a track mat for Gordon's head, which will turn the head layer into a stencil. All right. So if I click that and say, under the track mat menu, say Alpha Mat Head Car Ride PSD, that will turn the head car ride PSD into a window for the layer below it. So the only thing you will see of Gordon's head is anything that the head layer occupies. Now from here, I can scale him up a little bit more to really make his head, and I can reposition him so that he's inside there. Okay, fun, right? Now, watch what happens if I go back to the beginning. It goes away. A little bit of a problem? Not really. What do we need to do?
Parent-child it.
Yeah, let's just have Gordon's head follow the layer that's creating a window for it. Now, he'll move wherever the head layer goes. Pretty nifty, right? All right, so we have a little thing here. He comes in and he says, "Hi, I'm Gordon," and he goes, "Whoa!" That's when the other two cars go whizzing by him. Okay, but we also have this B that comes in right at the beginning.
Hi, I'm Gordon Studer. Whoa!
Okay, so we've got all that. We're gonna do them both. So what do you want to do first? Do you want to do the B or do you want to do the cars whizzing by?
Let's do B.
Okay, let's do the B. All right, let's pre-comp. Let's go into the pre-comp because that's where the B exists. See, car ride is all back there doing its big side scroll. So let's go in here and just animate this B because it's a nice layer on its own. I'm going to zoom in, use my space bar to turn it into the hand tool and drag it over. And let's do, you remember the car ride chapter where you did the little zigzag and you had the car follow it? Well, in this lesson, he's got 2 keyframes for the B. He's got, so I hit Option P to turn on my first keyframe. He's got the B just flying out really fast, like that. Oh no, faster than that. Way faster. Okay. Is that interesting animation?
No,
What do you want to do with the B?
I want him to spin around his head. Like a real
Spin around? Okay, let's add another keyframe right here in the middle then. Okay. Now, with my playhead here and the B layer selected, if I hit Alt P or Option P, it'll add a keyframe right there in the middle. Or if I start moving the B, it'll also add a keyframe. So there's 2 ways to do it. So check out what's going on here. These handles on either side of the B, if I grab one of those and rotate it around this way, I can make the B start doing a loop-de-loop. And I can actually grab the handles at the beginning and loop this B around. See, now the B's going woo. Only one problem. Watch what happens when I play this back. Woo.
He goes backwards.
He's like not changing his orientation at all. What do I need to do? Yep, I need so yeah, you said constrain the orientation to the path, but it's called auto orient. So the key command for auto orient, because I don't remember where it is in the menus, is Command Option O for orient. So I have to have it selected. Command Option O, and if I say orient along the path, click OK, then the B turns in the direction of the path. So much fun. And by then, we can probably end the layer. Do you guys remember the key command to end the layer right there, to trim it back? Okay, teaching you lots of keyboard shortcuts for this lesson because it's a good one for it. It's Option right bracket, and that will trim it back. So it's this thing. What I'm doing here with my mouse, trimming it back, that's the key command, and it'll put the end where the playhead is. So if my playhead is back this way and I hit Alt Option right bracket, it'll trim the end of it that way. The opposite is true for the beginning. Left bracket will trim it that way. Now, right and left bracket will also shift the beginning or end of it to the playhead. The difference is it's shifting it, not trimming it. So with the layer selected, if I hit left bracket, see how those keyframes moved and everything? It'll move everything so the beginning of the layer starts with the playhead. Okay? We're going to do that many, many times. So we'll do that again and again and again. But for now, I'm just going to drag this way. Now, let's go back to the car ride master and see what that looks like. So the B's coming out right at the beginning, doing a little woo, going off screen. And then we never see it again because we turned the layer off after the B gets off the screen. So I lucked out. My intuition worked out pretty well for me that time. If the B was, so if we get right here and then we start to see like a stagnant B floating into the screen again, we need to go back into the car ride where the B is and just make sure to turn the B off a little sooner. Okay, that's all. Or speed up the animation or whatever we might need to do. All right, so let's go back here and take a look. I'm gonna hit spacebar.
Hi, I'm Gordon Studer. Whoa.
All right, so that was fun. B comes out.
Hi, I'm Gordon Studer. Whoa.
Okay, so that whoa is happening right about here. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, right there. Let's have the cars come whizzing by him right there. Actually, what I'm going to have him do is he comes back. I'm going to have him kind of come back this way a little bit, so that he kind of comes into the screen.
Hi, I'm Gordon Studer. Whoa.
And then he settles back so that we can see those cars go by. Now here's a really cool thing. With my playhead right here, this is where I want the animation of those cars to start zooming by him. If I double click on the nested composition, which is that PSD file, see where the playhead is? That's that same point in time. Okay, so that's where I want to start these cars animating past to go this way. So anybody want to tell me how to do that? That's where I want to start the position keyframes. So if I select the layer, how do I activate my first position keyframe?
P.
Because it's Option P. P will bring up the position property in the timeline. So now let's look at my timing here. This is at 3:01, which is basically 3 seconds. How much time do you think it would take to have those cars whiz by? To go zoom right past him.
2 seconds? 3 seconds? Or that's
1
how?
second.
1 second? Let's do 1 second. We could, actually, let's do 2 seconds. See what it looks like. And then, I know it's not going to be fast enough, I'll show you how to fix it. So 2 seconds from 3 seconds would be 5 seconds. Welcome to kindergarten. My kindergartner can do that one. Alright, so now let's move these cars with the playhead here. Let's just drag them over this way, make sure that they're going to be out of this guy's way. And now let's go back to the car ride master and see what that looks like.
Whoa. I'm a Bay Area.
Okay, so slightly slow, right? Just a little bit.
Studer. Whoa. I'm
All right, let's have them go faster. How do we make these go faster?
Drag over the keyframe.
Yeah, if we take this second keyframe and drag it a second earlier, just make it, that makes the animation shorter. If you bring the keyframes closer together, it makes them go faster. If you push them apart, it makes them go slower. So I just made them go faster. All right, because I'm bouncing back and forth between car ride and car ride master so much, here's a keyboard shortcut for navigating between, because they're not right next to each other in my timeline, so I might get confused. If I hit tab, that'll bring up my flowchart. So inside car ride, there are 2 nested comps, but car ride, if I go left, it'll show car ride master as the one it is nested into. So if I click on car ride master, it'll jump over to that tab. So I'm going to start doing that because it's faster. Now, let me go back to the beginning, hit spacebar, and see how it looks.
Hi, I'm Gordon Studer. Whoa. I'm a Bay Area illustrator.
All right, so right there, we did a good job. That looked fine. So right here, he's starting to come in front of these buildings. Let's do this thing where we put that building coming in, then that building coming in, then that building coming in. All right, so as he's driving in front of them, we need the buildings to just kind of do this little pop in. So with my playhead right here, 6 seconds, let's have that be my place. I'm going to double click on the car ride to bring that up, but then these 3 buildings, are a full skyline. They're a pre-comp. So let's pretend I don't know where these buildings need to come in. I just want to animate them for now. So I'm going to double click on full skyline and hit Command plus to make that bigger. Hold down my spacebar to reposition it, turn it into the hand tool. All right, I'm going to hit Command plus one more time and then reposition it using my hand tool, spacebar. And because I'm not really worried about when these buildings come in for now, I'm just going to do this animation right at the beginning of this timeline. Then wherever I want the buildings to come in, I just put the beginning of this sequence, the nested sequence, that's where I put it. All right, I hope that made sense. This is lots of position keyframes here. But what his video does is he has these buildings all bounce into place. They go bonk and they settle back down. So we're going to need to do a few keyframes. Let's start with this keyframe. This is where I want the buildings to end up. So I'm going to go forward to like half a second or a second, which would be like, let's do 20 frames. That's 2/3 of a second. And with all three of them selected here in the timeline, I am going to hit Option P. That means no matter what I do to muck with these at the beginning of the timeline, this is where they'll end up, okay? Because this is where the Photoshop file wants them to end up. And what did that do? That put a keyframe for all three of them in the position property right there. Now let's go back to the beginning of the timeline. Hit the home key, scrub back, whatever you got to do. Now I'm going to select all three of them, and then just here in my viewer, I'm going to drag them down off the bottom. I got to make sure I go far enough to get that steeple off, or the spire, top of that building. Everybody loves San Francisco. All right, now if I hit spacebar, check out what happens. Boop, boop, boop. All three of them come in. But we want them to do like this little animated bounce in. So somewhere around here, let's say 13 frames, I'm going to select all three of them again and then move them above where I want them to end up. And now let's see how that looks. Boing. They're all bouncing in now. Isn't that cute? Now in his video, he's got buildings popping up, boink, 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 like one after another. So let's do that. The way we do that is that whole shifting the time of the layers. So I want to make sure that this is the first one. So bottom one first, then the middle layer second, and then the top layer third. And I can do this with my mouse, or I can be precise and do an exact number of frames, but let me just start by just kind of sliding these over and changing the timing of the beginning of each. And then let's see how this looks. Duk, duk, duk. It's so cute. I'm going to do one other thing though. See how that layer is kind of crossing in front and it's like luminescent? It's like a cutout of the other one. Nah, never mind. I'm going to leave it. It's going to happen fast enough. Alright, so let me tell you just how many frames this is. If I go Command right arrow or page down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're 5 frames apart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, I got that one off by 1 frame. 2 frames. So, there. Now let's decide where we want this animation to actually happen. Let's go back to Car Ride Master. Just take a look at it. And when he gets to the buildings, that animation happens pretty fast. So let's maybe have it, because we've got this weird thing that happens in between these two buildings, let's have the animation happen about the time he's going to cover that up. So that's where I'll want it to start. So let me go back into the car ride pre-comp, and knowing that my 3 building animation happens at the beginning of itself, what's the key command to make the skyline layer start right there where the playhead is?
Is it option P1 still?
That's just the left bracket to shift it over. Okay. Lots of key commands in this particular lesson. So there they are, bouncing in. Left bracket will shift the beginning of it. It'll take the whole thing and it'll shift it, the beginning of it, to where the playhead is. If you want to trim it, it's Alt left bracket. That'll trim the beginning. All right. All right, so we've got that. Let me go back to, I did it too quick. So I'm in the nested comp. I want to make sure I go back to my master comp. If I hit tab, it'll bring up this little flow chart. If I click car ride master, it'll bring the car ride master up into the front of the timeline. All right, let's see how this is looking now.
Hi, I'm Gordon Studer. Whoa, I'm a Bay Area illustrator. Take a look at some of my work. Gotta go.
Okay, guess what? It's not moving fast enough. Because by the time he looks to the side, we're supposed to be at his paintings at the end, right? Because he's saying, take a look at my stuff. What should I do? What should I do?
You gotta move your points.
I just need my position keyframes to be closer together. Okay, so we know that this diamond right here, that represents the camera settling on the picture frame, or his easel. So when he's turning his head here, let's just make sure that keyframe is right there. That sped it up. But what else is that going to do to my animation?
Speed everything else up.
It's going to speed everything else up. So I might need to go in, see my buildings? They're coming in too late now. So let's put it right here. Go into my pre-comp. Make that start right there. And we also need to probably go back, make sure that these cars are in a good place. Oh, see, look, they're not even moving here. So what I'm going to do with this one is, because this car is already on the screen, I'm going to take this first position keyframe. Actually, my playhead is on that first keyframe. So I'm just going to drag these two over here so that I just make sure they're off screen before they start moving. And I don't need to worry about easing these because they start off screen and they end off screen. In fact, this keyframe might be too far over this way now. So let's just move that just in case. All right, hit tab, click on Car Ride Master, see what it looks like. Okay, starting off screen, ending off screen. Okay, so that's good. Buildings. Boop, bloop, bloop. Could make them come in earlier or later. I don't know.
Well, it's
It's
blank,
personal.
so it looks kind of funny. It should, don't you think they should start coming in
Right
there
here?
where it's blank?
Yeah, maybe. Let's do this. Left bracket. Try that.
Bay Area illustrator.
Boink, boink, boink.
Take a look at
I might slow them down. Here's a way I can slow it down without having to redo the animation. If I go click on these two little right-left bracket things, time, collapse, in and out, duration, stretch, phase. If I click on that, this little guy right here. So you got three tiny little icons, very bottom left corner of your screen. There's the layers switches pane, there's the transfer controls pane, and then there's this stretch pane. And the stretch pane is all these blue numbers over here. This last number, that represents the speed that it's being played at. So if I want to slow it down, I could. Now it does it in terms of how much space it takes up. So if it were ended right here, and I turn it to 200%, it would make it take up twice as much space, which slows it down. So it's kind of backwards of playback speed. It's like actual stretching space. So it's a little backwards. So if I make it 200%, that'll make it play half as fast because it takes twice as long to play it. That's how it's. So if I made it 50%, it would play it back at double the speed. It's kind of it's so backward from how editors work, but it works, promise. All right, so let me go back to my master, see how this is looking.
Illustrator.
Doink, doink, doink.
Take a look at some of my work. Gotta go.
All right, one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to have this last keyframe ease in again. So it's going to slow to a stop. So if I right click on this position keyframe for the car ride layer, easy ease in, that actually makes it get there faster. And because he's saying, gotta go, we can have him peel off into the sunset as it's slowing down. He can go, all right. One other thing that happens, we're going to do some scale keyframing now, is when he starts getting to the end of this road, see right about here, we see the Golden Gate Bridge in the background, but that he's not driving on road anymore. So let's add right about here, let's add a position. Oh man, that ease in messed up my timing again. All right, we'll fix it. My timing of my buildings changed because of my ease. Okay, so as he's getting here off the road, let's add for the car layer, because his head is following the car, that's the artist layer. Let's add a position keyframe and then also add a scale keyframe. Okay, so this is where we're going to want him to start getting closer to the screen. And let's decide that by the time it gets to be about right here, he says, gotta go. Let's have him be big. So I'm going to scale him up and I'm going to push him down. So let me just watch this.
Take a look at some of my work. Gotta go.
And now he's turning this way, turning his head this way. Let's have that be where he starts to leave. So we need to make another keyframe here before we make him leave. Okay? So that'll allow us some time. All right, let me show you what I just did. The reason why I'm not just going to move him off the screen is because he'll just hit this position and scale and then immediately start to leave. But we want him to say his line and then leave. Okay? So when he gets here, he says, gotta go. And then he starts to look. That's when I want to start the next animation. So to add keyframes here, I'm going to click on these two little diamonds next to position and scale. And that will add the keyframes that are the same as these two. Okay, so all these two keyframes are the same, and these two keyframes are the same, which means there's no movement between them. All right, so they'll just stay right where he is. And that'll allow us to move the playhead forward as he turns his head and have him, now with the playhead later, I can just grab the car and zoom, there he goes. Okay. Another keyframe I want to add is rotation. Because I want him to, as he peels off, I want his car to like, actually raise up off the ground, because, that happens.
Yeah.
If you peel out hard enough. Vin Diesel did it.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Command R will add a rotation keyframe here at the beginning. I just have my playhead at this keyframe where these start to go. And I'm going to move it forward till he's almost totally out. And then I'm going to take the rotation value and I'm going to crank it so that he peels off. Okay. All right. So let's watch this. Tell me if this looks even sort of natural. What do you guys think? Let's watch it again. Does that look natural?
It's a little fast.
Okay, so it's fast, but the problem is he's going from 0 to 60 in one frame. He needs a chance to ramp up his speed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's add some, let's grab this position keyframe and this rotation keyframe and right click on them and go to keyframe assistant, easy ease out. Okay, what out is we're leaving the keyframe, and what in means is we're arriving into the keyframe. So we're going out, leaving, arriving in. Okay, so as the playhead goes from left to right, that's how you got to think about in and out. So this keyframe needs to be in and be easy ease out. Now let's look.
That's better.
Okay, so that's better. It's not just like twing, slingshot. Even a slingshot needs a chance to build up some momentum. All right. So looking pretty good. Let's add some easy ease to these keyframes, so that as he arrives here, he doesn't just scale immediately. So go to keyframe assistant with. So I selected all 4 of these keyframes. Right click, keyframe assistant, and I'm going to do easy ease, so it goes both ways. And now I'll watch it. So he's scaling up. He settles in, and then he peels off. Okay, ease and ease, lots of ease. The more easing you put in your first assignment, the more happy you'll make me. Okay. Good little tip for achieving an A. Those are like the brownie. Like if you really ease lots of your stuff in, you'll make me happy, and then I'll be like, yes, you listened to me. Lots of ease. All right, I'm going to turn my sound back on. Do you want to do our slideshow first at the end with all of his pictures, or do you want to put the music in first? Oh, awesome. Let's put the
Music first.
music. So I'm going to double click on the negative space in the project panel. Grab this piano.wav, click open. And then all I'm going to do is just go back to the beginning, drop that down to the bottom. And now let's listen to what it sounds like.
Hi, I'm Gordon Studer. Hello. I'm a Bay Area illustrator.
Okay, how's the mix?
It's a little bit loud.
Too loud.
Okay, music's too loud. Here's how you change the volume in After Effects. It's L for levels. That's your audio levels. So if I just turn this down to maybe -10, that should be enough for this.
Hi, I'm Gordon Studer. Hello.
That's a better balance, right? You can keyframe that too. See, stopwatch. Everything's got a stopwatch. You can add keyframes, so you can change the volume as you go along. It's not as eloquent of a changing of audio keyframes as Premiere can be, but you can do it. Okay, good job. Okay, we put the music in. That's it. All right, so now let's. For this next part, I'm going to create a folder for all of his paintings. So I'm going to click on the Create New Folder, call this Paintings. And then with the Paintings folder selected in my project panel, I'm going to hit Command-I again to import. And now, because Paintings folder was selected, as I select all these paintings, when I click Open, they will all go into that folder. So that's an organized project right there, see? Nice and organized. Okay, now I'm going to create a slideshow. out of all these paintings. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this super easy for myself. I'm going to select all of them and then drag them all to the Create New Composition. And then I'm going to, when you drag multiple multiple assets to create a new composition, you get this dialog box. I want to make a single composition because I want them all to be in this one composition. I can select a still duration. This is 2 seconds right now. Let's make it 3 seconds. Just cause. And we're going to use the dimensions from one of these, which I think they're all pretty much the same, so we're fine. All right. So let's make this really easy on ourselves and say sequence layers, and then we'll have them overlap each other, and we'll have them have a 15 frame, which is a half second, dissolve from one to the next. Go After Effects. Click OK. Now watch. 1, 2, 3, crossfade. 1, 2, 3, crossfade. 1, 2, 3, crossfade. How easy was that? One of these lessons I'll teach you how to sequence layers, but if you're doing a really quick, really easy slideshow, that's about the quickest and easiest way you can do it. Okay. All right, let's check this out though. The composition, we did it based on this layer, which is perfect, but this one is too big. So let's just go in, make sure our sequence settings are big enough to fit all these pictures. Do you guys remember the key command for changing your composition settings? Command K, because composition starts with a K.
Is
Now-
that where your playhead is? Do you just have everywhere? Just anywhere in there?
Yeah, just anywhere. I put it over this picture because the outline of this picture is this big, so I'm just going to change my width till it's big enough to fit that picture. And then I'm going to change my height till it's big enough to fit the picture. Oh, it's constraining the proportions. So let me just deselect that. And just so I can see the whole image, that's all. Click OK. Because if I turn on my little transparency thing, it doesn't matter how big the composition is. If I can see the whole image, anything other than the image will just be invisible when I put it into the other composition. All right, where do you think we should put this? I'm going to rename this. I don't want it to be Studer Comcast anymore. I'm going to go up into my project panel, select it, hit return to select it, and I can change the text to slideshow. Hit enter. There we go. Now it's my slideshow. Where should I put my slideshow? Should I put it in Car Ride Master? Right here? Or what if I put it in Car Ride back here and just stick it on the easel?
Uh-oh. It's very,
Unbalanced. What?
I don't know,
You
mine,
broke it.
Did yours do it too?
mine did that to me earlier.
Weird.
It was left to me.
All right. I think I lost a whole bunch of work. Hold on. Pausing. All right, so we need to get this this slideshow on that easel. There's two ways we can do it. First way I'm going to do is go to the Car Ride Master, go to where we are stopped on this easel, and then place my slideshow right on top of it, right on the easel there. And then resize it a little bit. I'm doing it using the handles and holding down Shift to resize, to constrain the proportions. Then I want this to start about where he's starting, right before it comes on the screen. So I'm going to left bracket it right there. What's my issue here? We need to make it move with that background, right? And we need it to be behind him, not in front of him. So that the second issue is just stacking order. We need to make sure that it's just above the car ride background layer. Now how do we make sure it moves with the background?
Anchor it to the back to the
Yeah. It's parent.
to
Make
car
it a
ride.
child of the car ride. Parent it to the car ride layer. Now, it'll just follow the car ride layer. Right, here's one teeny little compositing thing. See how we can see the white borders, that like white edge on the paintings? If we do a blend mode, which hopefully it's in your toggles, switches, modes already. If this is what you see, then you need to click toggle switches modes so that we can see this mode column. Select the normal and then change that to something like darken or multiply. Then anything that's white will become invisible. So the white will become the same color as the canvas, and everything not white will be its normal colors. Now it looks like everything was drawn right on that canvas. The music ends right here. So let's have our layer end right there somewhere. So I'm going to go back up to this little time stretching thing, and I'm going to just scrub the time till I start seeing the end of the layer. Then, see how I made my timeline, my composition 20 seconds long, but I've got it ending earlier than that? If I hit N, that'll set the end of my work area where my playhead is. Okay. Now I can keep it its full length, but when I render this video out, it will render out. If I tell it to render out the work area bar, it'll only do that amount. If I am just doing test renders or want to do a RAM preview of a section of it, we'll learn about RAM previews later also. Then B sets the beginning. So it's kind of like your I and O, in and out, beginning, end, B, N. They're right next to each other on the keyboard too, so it makes it easy. I'm going to undo that last little thing. And then here's one thing you can do. If you right click on the work area bar up there, you can tell After Effects to trim your comp to the work area, and then it'll have, no matter what, like, it just resets the length of your video. Rather than having to open up your composition settings window and try to enter in a time code, you can just right click on this, say set to work area bar, and then, or set comp length to work area, and it'll change the length of your composition. Okay, so I'm going to watch it now. This slideshow is going to go super fast.
Hi, I'm Gordon Studer. Whoa. I'm a Bay Area illustrator. Take a look at some of my work. Gotta go.
Okay, one thing I forgot to do here last minute was when I add that easy ease at the end, or the ease in at the end for my timeline, or my pre-comp, it changed the timing of these buildings coming in. So I'm just going to reset. I'm going to double click on that and set the beginning of those buildings coming into right there. Doink. Let's go back to the car ride master. I'm going to hit tab. That brings up this little flow chart. And make sure that it's looking good.
I'm Gordon Studer. Whoa. I'm a Bay Area illustrator. Take a look at some of my work.
Okay, we have a car issue too. See those cars? They ended up back on the screen. So I'm going to select them and I'm going to change those keyframes so that they're back this way. A little farther. Check that. Okay, they're off the screen.
Whoa.
Alright, reckless drivers.
I'm a Bay Area illustrator. Take a look at some of my work.
You want the buildings to come in even earlier? You liked them earlier, huh?
It looks weird with them coming in after he's already passed him.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's set it right there. Right. So we really see it coming in right there. Okay.
Jordan Studer. Whoa. I'm a Bay Area illustrator. Take a look at some of my work. Gotta go.
Okay, there it is. I think in chapter 14 for exporting compositions, they use this as an example, but we'll probably use it. I use a different one. All right, remember to save it. Luckily, with that little snafu in the middle, I had an autosave in the autosave folder that only lost me like a couple minutes. So,
Did you record all the rest of this stuff or did you? stop
Sure did.
recording? Okay, good.
all right, thanks everybody.